DreAllDay.com.
What's up, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. It's a quick video that I wanted to make. Sometimes I think of stuff that will be more motivational in nature, but I don't want to even make it a weekly motivation video. This video I just wanted to make a random one that's not going to be a weekly motivation, even though it is a motivational type of topic. And it's about people telling you things as if they know what they're talking about, but they don't always know. And even if this person happens to be in a position of authority relative to where you're at the time that the conversation takes place, just because they got more authority than you at the moment, or they're in a higher position than you, or in a position where you have to kind of do what they say, or you got to listen to what they say at that time, it doesn't mean that they're always right. And I'm gonna give you 3 examples that come from my life, and I've talked about a couple of these before, maybe written about them if you read the stuff that I write either on my blog or in my books. Another one that I don't think I told anybody about. First one was when I was about 15, 16 years old. In my neighborhood, I had tried out for a couple basketball teams, not made the teams. Tried out at high school, didn't make the team, and I was just like an average to below average player in my neighborhood amongst my age group. And I remember one moment I was walking out of the gym and I was talking to one of the guys who was like one of the local coaches and one of the older dudes in the neighborhood. They was just walking and I was walking behind them. They was like, just talking to me about what I was going to do in basketball, if I still thought, I could do something, be successful as a basketball player. And the coach said to me, because at the time I was thinking maybe 15, 16, I had played baseball till I was like 14. I dabbled in basketball, but I had played baseball more often. And he was like, yo, and the coach turned around and said to me, yo, Dre, I heard you was nice in baseball. Why don't you just play baseball instead of playing basketball? Why even try to play basketball when you could play baseball? Baseball, you last longer in baseball, your career is longer. You might have a chance to make it as a baseball player. Why even do all this basketball? And he wasn't even trying to be funny or disrespectful. He was like trying to be helpful. At least he thought he was being helpful by telling me that I shouldn't even go for basketball because he said baseball was a better opportunity for me. So we all know how that turned out. Second thing is, when I graduated from college, my mother's an educator. She's a teacher. So she taught my sister and I like how to read when we were really young. Like the fact that I like to write and read so much now is attributed almost 100% to her, because she had us in books and reading and writing at a very young age. So when I graduated from college, my mom's so strict in the education, she's really into that educational plan, go to school, get good grades, get a degree, get a job, and live happily ever after. I knew I wasn't going to follow that plan, but I did want to go to college and all that because I knew college was going to help me get better at basketball. So when I graduated from college in 2004, my mom was like, I came back home. I was living back home because I ain't had no job yet. I didn't get into basketball yet. My mom was like, all right, well, you graduated from college now. What you gonna do? And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play basketball. I'm gonna play basketball professionally. And at the time, that sounded crazy because I didn't have no type of prospects. I didn't get drafted nowhere. I didn't have no agent at the time. I didn't even have that much money to go to a camp, even if I wanted to go to a camp. So there was really nothing in my present at that moment that said, this guy's gonna become a basketball player. There was nothing realistic if you looked at my situation and said, this is gonna happen for this guy to be a basketball player. And so my mom looking at things like the way that, from her perspective, like this education, follow the plan, get a job, get a degree, go work for somebody as an employee for 50 years, then you retire, you get your little gold Rolex, and you live off Social Security. I knew that wasn't going to work for me, but for her, that's the only thing she understood. So when I said I'm going to be a basketball player, she was incredulous, like, what? You going to be a what? A basketball player? How you going to do that? Like, you ain't get drafted. So the very little bit of information she knew about basketball, she knew I didn't fit that description. So she's like, look, if you like basketball so much, go get a job, right? And then go play in a men's league or something. Go join the YMCA recreational league. And she was dead serious because that's all she knew about basketball. And me, I'm like, when she said that, I ain't go crazy or nothing because it's my mom. Like, you can't be disrespectful. But I'm thinking to myself, like, she has no idea. So that was like a major motivation for me to make it doing something in basketball just to prove that point, even if it took me 10 years later to prove the point, to look back and say, okay, now you see what I've done. And the third thing is, I don't know if all of you know, but I am a professional speaker. Also, is like one of the businesses that I do. I speak professionally, motivational speaking, speaking about business, about marketing, and things like that. And I went to this event like last summer, and this woman who ran the event, she's a well-known person like in South Florida, in Miami, for like, I don't know, marketing, branding, PR, things like that. She's known in business circles, right? So I went to her her event. I had called her because a year before that, I went to this like random event that was for social media in Miami, just an event where people just shared information about social media. And this woman was a presenter at that event. And when I went to her panel just to hear her present, she just seemed pretty good. I liked her energy. I liked the stuff she talked about. She knew what she was talking about. And most of the things she was talking about when she spoke, I already knew them because I had so much experience, of course, with dealing with y'all on YouTube, with my website and things like that. But at that point, I hadn't thought about it as a business. So I'm talking, this is 2013. So in 2014, when I knew I wanted to start getting into the business of professional speaking, like speaking to kids, speaking to students, speaking to business owners and things like that, she was the only person in Miami who I knew that did it. She's the first person I thought of. So I called her and said, hey, I want to get into this business of speaking, you know, what are the things that I need to do? And she said, well, I'm having this event, so you should come to my event so you can learn about it. I said, cool. So I went to her event, and the way the event was labeled, I'm not going to say the name of the event because I'm not trying to bash this woman, but the way the event was labeled was like she's going to teach you how to become a great professional speaker. And the event was nothing about that. It wasn't about that at all. The event was more about like establishing your name on the internet. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck do I need to be at an event like that for? I've already done that. Like, my name was more established than her motherfucking name. So I'm paying her to teach me something that I should be teaching her. So anyway, at the end of the event, right, she came and like, it's like, let's say 100 people at the event. So she came and like sat down with me because we was all she gave everybody an assignment, like figure out, you know, what is your actual, the scope of your speaking going to be? If you want to be a speaker or whatever business you want to get into, what is the scope of it going to be? What's going to be your main theme that when you go out to people and tell them what you do, what are you going to say that you do? Like your quote unquote elevator type speech or your pitch or whatever. So when she came and sat with me, she was like, all right, so what is it that you want to do? And I said, well, I came to this event because I told you I wanted to get into professional speaking. And she looked at me like she didn't believe me, because the way this event went, she was on stage the whole time talking, right? And she would have a microphone. If any of you ever been to a conference or you've seen one, you know how it'd be the person who's the speaker, they're on the mic talking, sharing the information and giving their knowledge. And then if somebody has a question, they got a microphone that they pass around the audience so anybody could grab the mic. And you know, when you get the mic, you stand up, introduce yourself, and you ask your little question, whatever it is you want to ask. During that conference, I didn't ask any questions. I was just listening to what she said, and the stuff she was talking about, like I said, it didn't really relate to what I needed to know. So I didn't have any questions. So when she's sitting down with me and I'm like, yo, I want to be a professional speaker, she looked at me like, you haven't spoken at all this entire event. You haven't said anything. You didn't get on the mic not one time. And the way she said it was like as if to say, oh, because you didn't get on the microphone and ask me a question, that means you're not qualified to be a professional speaker, which is the stupidest shit I ever heard in my life. It makes no sense whatsoever. But again, and the reason that I'm telling you, and I'm not going to go any more into that story, because like I said, I'm not trying to bash the woman, but it was some really dumb shit she said to me. The point of all three stories is this. When people tell you things like what they think you can and can't do, or what they think is possible and is not possible, you got to understand that every individual, every human being sees things from their own perspective of what they know. They speaking from the perspective of what they understand, the things they've experienced, the things that they believe are possible. So if you talk to somebody, let's say for instance, you talk to somebody who works at Taco Bell, right? He makes $8 an hour, and you tell him that you want to start a business and become a millionaire and hire 1,000 employees and be on the cover of Forbes magazine, they're going to look at you like you crazy, right? Why? Why are they going to look at you like you crazy? Because from their perspective, they have no reference to that being possible, because all they know is what they know, which is work at Taco Bell, get your check for $8 an hour every 2 weeks, and that's basically your life. That's all they know. So they wouldn't understand it. So, but if you go to a businessman, like let's say you go to Richard Branson and you say, hey, I'm thinking of starting a business and I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to make $1 million my first year, and then I'm going to hire 1,000 employees and I'm going to be on the cover of Forbes magazine, he's going to say, okay, well, all right, what's your plan to do it? I might be able to give you some tips. Why is he going to respond differently than the guy at Taco Bell? Because Richard Branson, his experience, the scope of his life, his perspective is possible because he's done it. So that ties into several different things. This will go into 20 different videos, but the point is this. When somebody's telling you something that's possible and not possible, consider the source of the person who's telling you that information, because someone who's never experienced the thing, a lot of times they don't believe that it's possible because they have no scope of it being possible because they never lived it. So when you're talking to somebody who's actually done the thing that you want to do, they're not going to laugh at you and say it's impossible or say, no, you can't never do that. Like, be realistic. They're going to say, okay, cool. Now, then they're going to probably ask you questions like, all right, what are you going to do now? What about this? What about this? And they'll probably say something that you hadn't thought of that you're going to need in order to get from point A to point B, because why? They know what it takes to get from point A to point B. And sometimes you're talking to somebody who has no idea of that background, that perspective, that life, those accomplishments, and they're going to try to belittle you because they just don't know. So always consider the source when you're talking to people. And this could lead into this final point. When you want to share big ideas or big dreams and stuff like that, I'm an advocate of really keeping a lot of that stuff to yourself. I'm not an advocate of telling everybody, announcing everything that you really want to do, especially your large aspirations, because the majority of people, or 99% of people, don't have large aspirations. They just okay being average. They're going to try to tell you why you can't do it or try to ridicule you and hold the things against you. So it's best to just keep those things to yourself, really. But if you are going to share them with somebody who's done it. Share them with somebody who's way up higher than you, because that person will understand and they won't tell you that you can't do it. They're going to encourage you. They're going to say, okay, then you need to do this, this, and this. You need to know this person. You need to talk to this guy. You need to read this magazine. You need to have this information. You need to be doing these things. So always keep those in mind, that when people try to tell you that you can't do stuff, most of the time it's because they can't. They haven't done it. They can't do it. They won't do it, and they're afraid to do it. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.
Checking out this video. Make sure you follow all my top content up here. Follow me on all your favorite social networks right over here, and make sure you are subscribed to catch all the new content I put on this channel every single day. Work on your game.